Jamaica Suk is a poly-instrumentalist, musician, performer, producer, and DJ. Besides a residency at Pornceptual, she also co-owns the label Gradient. The artist grew up in California and developed a passion for music from a very young age. Having studied piano, flute, and bass, she worked as both a jazz and rock musician before her adoration for electronic music took over and helped her ignite her career as a DJ. In all the years she's put in, Jamaica developed not only a profound relationship with music, but also an incredible work ethic that keeps her in the studio as well as on stage for 6 days a week. Rome wasn't built in a day, they say, and as we see from her achievements, artists' careers take continuous work and time to materialize. Jamaica talks about the importance of continuing to work on your craft to eventually see results, and she also talks about what's behind Pornceptual, her approach to deciding what music to release, and how she's helping other musicians with one-to-one tutoring. Jamaica shines for her output and technical preparation, and if you listen to this chat, you might uncover her secret for continuing to be productive, even when inspiration is nowhere to be found. Without further ado, enjoy Jamaica Suk. Jamaica, welcome back in a way to the Chat with HoS Sound. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
And how have you been lately? And I know I want to talk in a second about you released a massive, let's say, compilation with more than 12 tracks, divided into 3 parts on vinyl. So that has been, I'm sure, has been like a massive job. Like, how do you feel now, right now that the records are out and they've been sold out in artworks, some of them? How do you feel about that?
I feel really good. It's been a huge project and there's a lot of people involved. So it's been exciting to work with these artists. There's 17 tracks on the 4 vinyls, and actually part 3 and 4 come out in November. So Gradient 6 will release on Monday on vinyl. It probably takes about a week after for it to hit all record shops. And then Gradient 7, Part 4 of Uncertain Landscape will release November 23rd.
Very cool, yes. And this is a massive, like, I know because I also run a small label, like dealing with so many artists must have been like a very long job. When did you start conceptualizing the VA?
That's correct. Yeah, dealing with multiple artists is it does take a lot of work, but it's also really exciting. It gives a lot of energy back, and it's just really exciting to see how far the project has come. Because about 1.5 years ago, I started to contact producers whose music I liked and whose music I was playing, and requested tracks from them, and talked about the initial stages of the project. And of course, at that time, it was a very different time than now. Artists were touring and they were busy with different projects, mostly shows and going places.
Yeah.
So not everybody that I requested were able to contribute, and that's okay, because it turned out to be a beautiful project, and it's actually it's really exciting to see how it came together, and to see the feedback and the news from the audience.
Yeah. It is amazing. Like you put a lot of work into that, and then eventually you see that it's a concrete piece of wax that goes into vinyl shops. There is someone who's grabbing that wax and playing that in their homes, sometimes in clubs now, and it's an amazing feeling. And was there any good, like, let's say, friendship that was born out of that relationship with these artists? I know you have Wrong Assessment, you have Insulate, you have a lot of other artists. Was there any particular, like, let's say, any person among these artists that you clicked with, that you started having like a friendship after this release?
Yes, actually, I would say all of the artists that have released on this project have developed a deeper connection with me and with my label partner, Suna Matthias. So Suna, Matthias, and I run Gradient together, and we started it in 2017. And the Uncertain Landscape project is something that we put our hard work into, and we can finally see the results now into late November. And yeah, it's been really cool. So it's been great establishing a deeper connection with everyone who released on the various artists. And I think that's what it's all about in the music community.
Yeah. And I know you, I mean, you have, I've seen a previous interview where you said something about music and techno especially is not just about entertaining people, but it's also about empowering freedom and equality worldwide of those who are marginalized. What are ways that you think artists can consciously promote freedom and equality using their music?
Well, I would say by sticking to the music that they love and performing it in clubs and in safe environments, that's a way to create a safe space and safe haven for equality and opening it to all different types of communities, and just bringing people together. And by developing this sense of open community with music, which is the universal language, that helps promote freedom and equality, because you can go to a club, you can dance together to techno, and you can be from all walks of life sharing that experience together without judgment. And that's something that is not available today. It's since COVID, so it's interesting to not have that and to really miss that. But
it is really interesting, and you live in Berlin, which is one of the biggest cities in terms of, or the most active cities in terms of parties, club scene, having a lot of like freedom on the dance floor. And now it does feel a very different world where we are now. And for artists, for the community, it feels like something is missing. And this is a question that I'm sure tons of other people have in mind. How do you cope as a creator with this state of uncertainty, anxiety? You wake up in the morning, you know, you're not going to play this Saturday. You're not going to find your community. Are there any things that work for you that can help other people perhaps?
I do meditation, whether it's a walking meditation or a silent meditation. And I try to write music every day. And even if it's for 20 minutes a day, that's something that I strive to do. So, and if it's not writing something 20 minutes a day, I will go to rehearsing, playing vinyl, playing music. And that is also a form of meditation for me. And it helps me transcend and cope with reality. And it's also a emotional release for me. So it's something very important. I notice that when I do not allow myself that time, that's when I feel the most anxious, and that's when I have more stress. So, you know, even with bills stacking up and canceled shows and the stress of daily life, you can tell yourself, oh, I do not have time for something. But actually, just by taking a break out of your daily life and just putting that into your schedule will make a huge difference.
I feel like that sometimes. And have you ever tried to learn meditation, or is something that came natural into your daily life?
I have tried to learn meditation, and it's something that I feel that I'm still learning, because there's so many different types of meditation. And it's also it also has to do with mindfulness, which is something that I practice as well. And it's related to awareness, or giving yourself this headspace where you can take a break and kind of forget everything around you.
Yeah.
So you can also do this with music. You can put on your iPod or stream from your iPhone and take time for yourself, go on a walk or run or something, and try to get the world out of your mind just temporarily.
Yeah, it does. It does seem that that is super effective in your case to remove you from the mess that sometimes you might find your mind going to. And I really like the approach of the 20 minutes per day of writing music at least 20 minutes per day. I remember you and I had a conversation before about this, and I remember I think I made that mental note of what you said. Even if it's 20 minutes, it does sound very little, but it is important because it keeps you going. Are there any days in your in your recent times, especially because of the situation, where you felt like, oh, even 20 minutes is like, no, I can't do that? It, like, can you tell us a bit more about that experience?
Yes, definitely. I have this, and it's I think it's something that all people deal with any type of art or passion or hobby or anything. And the best way for me to tackle this is by having a space dedicated to for music, and a space that I go to, and I can have things set up in a specific way or in a similar way, and I can have this process of repetition.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you have a desk in your home or wherever you live that has your computer, Ableton, or a piece of gear that you love, or something nice like whatever you're using, and you just show up to that every day and take those 20 minutes for yourself to write something fresh, that really helps, because I think it's similar as in going to the gym or practicing a sport. Sometimes it's difficult to arrive.
Yeah, of course. And it's like you're making it easy for you to accomplish the mission because you have the space that encourages that, creating like some kind of anchor. Is your studio where you produce music inside your home, or is separate?
My studio is above a nightclub in Berlin, and it is about a 3-kilometer bike ride away from my home.
Very
And
close. Yeah.
it's close. In the winter, when it gets really cold in Berlin, it feels very far away.
Yes.
But I do mostly mixing there,
Mm-hmm.
as well as arrangement.
Yeah.
But as far as the 20-minute approach to fresh creative ideas, I do that from anywhere. So it can also be at home, at the desk that I dedicate to this, or I can implement that into my travel schedule.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I think that creates momentum, and like you also feel like you're accomplishing something even when that is small, and that keeps you going. And eventually it's a compound effect. Over the years, you have created so much music, and you have trained yourself to create music in any state, that you're going to be able to make music continuously. It's not going to feel like a lot of pressure or like something that you cannot stand. And I remember you mentioned to me once that pressure can create diamonds, and it's another thing that I really like. What's behind that phrase? That's stuck in my mind.
Well, that's something that I find truth in, because I am someone who likes to I like to practice a busy schedule. So I often commit to multiple projects, and I put them into my Google Calendar, and that's how I have my work week. I am a freelancer, so as a freelancer, it can be difficult sometimes to differentiate the work time versus your off time. And with musicians and artists, when we are pursuing a career within something that is our passion, I feel that it's really hard to sometimes take time off.
So much, yeah.
Like self-care and everything, like the worlds just blend together. And that's what it's like for freelancers, for entrepreneurs. And it's something that can, it can be damaging to your mental state and to other things in your life. So, so by basing my weekly, by having my week based on projects and based on studio time or time for record shopping and things like that, when I have deadlines in my calendar and I reach those goals, I feel that that it really pays off. And I feel that the pressure that I put on myself to try and reach that deadline creates diamonds. So
yeah, it's almost like you pressurize your time, and then what comes out of that is like a diamond, like a finished brilliant product.
yes, exactly. And then by finishing that deadline, you can move on to the next project with a satisfactory feeling of accomplishment, which helps you then tackle your next projects.
Yeah, very, very, very interesting. And there's something that you also mentioned now when you were telling how you schedule your week, which is keeping a balance. Do you find it hard sometimes to strike or let's say to keep relationships in your life because you overfocus on work, music, or any other type of work?
Yes, in the past, that's something that I've struggled with. I put work first, and I still put that on a high priority. I still put that on like a high position in my list. But now, since COVID happened, I've taken more time for social relationships and for contacting my family, and I'm traveling less. So it's allowed me more time to focus on these really important things in life, which are actually more important than work.
Yeah, and relationships included, family relationships, whatever form. Yeah, it does make sense, and it seems really that this reset or forced reset that COVID brought to a lot of us is like a big reset button where it's keeping all of us in check. I just saw a picture today of another DJ who posted a picture of himself in the gym, and he said, "I stopped smoking for now 3 months almost, since smoking for like 15 years, more than 40 cigarettes a day."
Wow.
Yeah, and he said, "No alcohol, nothing else, no smoking, gym three times a week at least. I feel another person." It's
Amazing.
interesting. Exactly.
Yeah.
And just to say something, just the last thing on this topic, and then we can move on to the other things. But is there anything that positive that you take away with you from this experience, from the lockdown?
Yes. From the lockdown, it's helped me focus on relationships, like I've said. So I've allowed myself more time each week to connect with a friend and go on a walk or take more self-care time. Of course, there's social restrictions. So I strive to do this in a way that's responsible. But, you can still meet with a friend on a Skype call, or you could go on a walk with them and grab a coffee and just have a conversation. And I think now is a time where people, they really value this time. So even myself, and it's a great time to reach out to people that you know or people that you don't know as well, and you want to get to know better. It's really a good time to contact them and just ask like how they're doing, or ask them about projects or different things like that. The other thing that I've taken from this time is basically searching for new opportunities, which have recently come to me. So I'm excited about the future of those opportunities. And there's a few music companies that have contacted me that are looking for some collaborations. And when that's ready, I will be able to post more news about it. But for now, I will have to just wait until that time comes. So
yeah, fingers crossed. And you mentioned new opportunities. Are they all related to music, or so you're considering something outside of music too?
they're all related to music.
Yeah, and I know that you keep yourself busy even now. You're doing a lot of one-to-ones and mentorships for other producers. Uh, how is that going? How are you feeling about that? You're helping basically up-and-coming producers, I guess, with their own music. Do you enjoy
That's
that?
Yes, that's correct. It's something I really enjoy, and it gives back a lot of energy, and it allows you to also share your experience and your knowledge, and to develop a connection with somebody. So each student has a different level of learning experience, and
Yeah.
it's something that I learn a lot from, and that I really enjoy. I teach one-on-one music production lessons that's tied with mentorship.
Yeah.
So each student has different needs, and they are interested in different things. And I cater each relationship towards them and their needs and their desires, and we go from there.
Yeah, yeah. So mentorship meaning that you make yourself available for them if they have questions, not just about technical things, but also about how they would approach a label, how they would approach, uh, let's say an agent, how they would approach promoters, that kind of stuff, right?
That's correct. Yes.
That's very cool. And I do feel that this is a great moment for anyone to do that for a variety of reasons. Like there's more students who want to do that and we have more time. So yeah, if you're able to put time toward helping other people this way, it's amazing.
Definitely.
Yeah. Is there any kind of recurring questions that you're getting from your mentees or students these days? Something that everybody's asking about?
Well, students ask me different things depending on the student. So it really varies from a person to person basis.
Yeah.
But questions that come up are, how do I contact a record label? How can I go about releasing on a label I look up to? And these are questions that are difficult to answer, actually, because it also varies on that record label.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Of
I
course,
guess,
yeah.
yeah, my answer to that is usually don't be afraid, contact the record label, put yourself out there, send them music, and continue sending them music, even if they stop responding to you. Maybe one day, maybe they're really busy, first of all, and then
Probably, yes.
yeah, and yeah, maybe one day out of the blue they will contact you, and if that doesn't happen, just don't take it personal.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. And there is another related thing, and I hope like someone who is thinking to send more music to labels take this away with them. Thanks, Jamaica, for the tip. I hope really someone can gain a lot of inspiration from these words. And there is another thing that I think is a recurrent topic now. I'm speaking with a lot of producers, which is, should I release music now or not? Because essentially a lot of the releases are linked now to getting a gig or becoming available for a promoter to book you. And now there is almost zero gigs around the world. Releasing for a lot of people start to seem like worthless because they think, if I release now let's say we start again in 6 months time, hopefully earlier, people will forget about me. What do you think? Do you think it's still worth it for people to release now, or should people like consider to wait a little bit more?
I think it's a better time than ever to release music and to get deeper into your craft. I think that the mindset of having a release tied to a gig should be thrown out, because you should not release something because you want something else. So that that is not, it is not important to, it's not important for an artist to release music or to put something out there just to get a show. I mean, of course, that does help, and it helped before COVID. But if you decide to be an artist and to make that your life, then I would just do it for the art and do it for the music, and basically release what you believe in and what you like. And it doesn't matter if anybody else likes it or not. And if you can't find a label to release it on, I would say start your own record label.
I love this. I love this. I hope that you know, people are listening to this very carefully. I think it's counterintuitive sometimes, because it does feel like now the best and maybe the only way to get gigs is to release on other people labels. So I see a lot of producers, a lot of us, sometimes even myself, like, you know, they get stuck thinking, oh, I should not release this stuff and wait for whatever, a big label to come pick it up, and then I'm gonna start playing somewhere. I don't know. I agree with you.
I know what you mean. Yeah, it's so difficult to know what labels will like out of your collection of finished tracks, and it's difficult to be promised to release something on a large label and then to have it fall through. And there's so many factors that we face as music producers and DJs. I totally understand. So I think by having your own platform and starting your own record label and developing your own community, that takes away the stress from that thinking, and it gives you a voice, and it gives others a voice that you invite to release with or to collaborate with.
Yeah, totally. I very much, and I very much encourage anyone who is listening to this to start preparing questions, because in a bit we're going to ask questions from a Q&A to Jamaica. So if you have questions, especially about releasing, prepare them, type them in the Facebook pages, so we're going to pick them up and ask them to Jamaica. And super interesting what you say, Jamaica, about the, you know, starting on a record label. You started Gradient, and what was one of the hardest things you have faced with your co-founder so far?
The hardest thing that we've faced is release dates for vinyl, because with vinyl production, it's there's a lot of factors. So that turns into delays sometimes, and that's something that you just have to kind of roll with and accept. So
yeah, it's very hard. And are you using one pressing plant, or are you using multiple? Like, especially now you just pressed essentially 5 different vinyls, the 5 different parts of your latest VA. Have you been able to use the same pressing plant consistently for the 5, or you're changing?
With the recent 4 vinyls, we used Deep Grooves from the Netherlands.
Okay.
And this is a cool pressing plant because they are sustainable and they are eco-friendly, and they even offer carbon-free shipping.
Wow. Okay. That's very interesting. I will definitely check them out, and we're gonna include their link in the show notes for sure. Very cool.
Yeah, please do. And they're also super friendly and nice to work with. And in our experience, we tried another pressing plant, which was also really great and good quality, but we experienced a lot of delays. And I think they just had a lot of business. So I don't think it was anything that anyone could change. Yeah. So they were too popular.
Yeah,
maybe.
Sometimes a good problem to have, you know. But
yeah. So now it'll be Deep Groove. So watch out. Just
very cool. Shout out to Deep Groove. let's talk about a bit about your origins. So you've been busy since the start of your career. I know we discussed about it. So you were born in San Francisco, in California, maybe not San Francisco, but it was California, US, and you grew up there for quite some while. You played music there before electronic music. Can you tell us a bit more about your origins with music?
Oh, sure. I started playing music pretty early. So I started with piano when I was 5 years old. And I grew up in Northern California, and I was surrounded by a lot of musicians. So there is a huge community there for live music, like everything from rock to metal to ska to country. I mean, they have everything, but it's mostly about live band music rather than electronic music.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the opposite of Berlin, which is the mecca for electronic music. And I after flute or after piano, I picked up the flute, and then I played the bass guitar and with the bass guitar, I played in my high school and college in the jazz bands and the symphony and the jazz combos. And I was just dedicated to playing bass guitar within school, and also during the week and on the weekends, I had band practice in different genres of different bands, from grindcore, shoegaze, to ska. And I was just very passionate about it, about playing bass guitar. And I wanted I just wanted to make it with one band. So that's why I was working with different groups. And, there's so many factors to playing in a band. You're dealing with multiple people with multiple personalities and
Egos.
yeah, totally. And also rehearsal. So I think if you for professional touring rock bands, you should rehearse 2 to 3 times a week, and for about a year before you start touring. That's really what it takes.
Wow.
It takes time for everyone, for the musicians to be on the same page with each other, and to be just to be synced together and to be in tune with each other mentally and spiritually, who knows, in all different ways. So
it's it's probably much harder than DJing, than preparing a DJ set. Like, no disrespect for all of us who also DJ, but it is much harder, like 3 times a week at least, rehearsing for, I don't know, I guess 4 hours or more. It's definitely much more and also having to organize with other people, it's much harder than turning on your console at home and playing, because that you can do that anytime you want. And
that's true. You have your machines and your computer are always there for you, and you can always go to them. And your bandmates are also, like, you do develop trust and many different things within a band. But there's just so many factors. People also have other lives outside of their band, and they go through all different things. And it's something I have a lot of respect for. It's very difficult, and it takes a lot of patience and dedication. But so does DJing. DJing also takes hours and hours of practice and rehearsing and time to find your voice. It takes, I think, many years as a DJ to really know what you're doing.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
And as a producer too, like, eventually, how long have you been producing for at this time?
I've produced since 2009, but I released my first EP in 2013.
Wow, yeah. So basically it took you, 2009, 4 years to just release something out. And since now until now, it's been 11 years. So yeah, it is a long journey. It's a huge, long, steep learning curve as well. And I know you also play a live set in, if I remember correctly, like at the end of August, you played a live set in Berlin in uh, Prince Charles. Is that right?
That's correct.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct.
How was that? How did you find it? Because I remember you were preparing it when we first spoke, and you prepared the live set with your bass guitar as well, incorporated in the live set.
Yes, that's correct. I was preparing for over a month, and it was for ARC, which is an event put on by Sweat Lodge Agency and Inland at Davenport. And it's a monthly series that that was held at Prince Charles in Berlin. And this was a seated concert where you have to wear a mask, and they follow all the hygienic rules, of course. But it was a different experience audio-wise for the normal club goer. And that's something that is really special to this day and age. And it makes a lot of sense because since clubs are closed, there's less opportunities to hear that type of music live. So it's cool to see what other types of music producers and DJs can offer.
Yeah, yeah, indeed. And for people who are interested in experimenting with their own live sets, aside from DJing and producing, how long does it take for you to prepare one live set?
It takes anywhere from 1 to 2 months or more.
And we're talking about like 4 days a week, 5 days a week in the studio, rehearsing and preparing, right?
Yeah, that's correct. I spend a lot of time actually deciding what pieces of gear I want to use in my live set. And it's sometimes I spend too much time on that, and
Yeah.
and yeah, what I realized is by limiting yourself and having less gear to then just practice every day with, that will help. But if
Yeah.
you have too many options, and if you're working with a modular system, it's just endless, the opportunities that are there. So you can think like, oh, I just want to buy this one extra module or two extra modules so I can do my live set. And then you realize that this is very counterproductive. I mean, sometimes it works, don't get me wrong. So I would recommend borrowing modules if you can, or buying used equipment. There's a lot of other musicians who work with modular systems who go through the same thing. They want to buy more modules. I mean, that's the whole thing. Once you get started, it's totally a wormhole. I'm not gonna lie.
It is like it is a rabbit hole.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I think yeah, I can only imagine like because if you like your music, eventually you would spend 20 hours straight forgetting about the world, just tweaking knobs and feeling these new sounds. Like you feel like a kid, like yeah, everything else
totally.
outside of the world doesn't matter in the moment.
Yes, totally.
Yeah. Is there any favorite pieces of gear for you that you would always bring, or let's say almost always bring with yourself into a live set?
Yes, the electron analog rhythm is something that I really like, and I find it intuitive. Once you get past the small learning curve with electron stuff, then it's fairly easy
Yeah.
to use.
Yeah.
And I recommend the Eventide H9 Max pedal. This is something that I love in the studio or in a live set. It's also very small, so you can travel with it anywhere. And it has a lot of algorithms from the other Eventide plugins, which is great.
Got it. Okay. And the okay, so electron algorithm, you have the first version or the MK2?
I have the MK2 now.
Okay, too. Yeah, yeah. So that is the one with the live sampler, where you can sample something from an input, and then you can merge it with a sample.
Yeah, that's correct.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. And you use that to as a master as well, to send the tempo to sync everything else, or you use a sequencer for as a master normally.
That is my master clock. That's correct.
Okay, master clock. Yeah, very good. Yeah. And yeah, for people who don't know Electron, they are amazing machines, but they do indeed have a big learning curve, steep learning curve, because you need to read the instructions. Like, there's no way you escape from that. They're quite complex. Very cool. Let me ask you something about so Pornceptual. It's a event, a platform that you've been around or in for a while, and a lot of people associate your music and they love your music also because of what you are one of the residents there. So they really associate you with the brand. For people who have never been to Pornceptual, how would you describe it in few words?
Pornceptual is a queer, sex-positive party that promotes equality and protects those especially marginalized.
Yeah, which really resonates with what you said at the start, where it's very important for a dance floor, a community, or a club to gather around places where you feel free, protected, you don't feel harassed by other people, and especially if you want to protect diversity, you want to encourage diversity, that is particularly important. Um, what was one amazing event that, or like, let's say an amazing moment of your career or life in Pornceptual that you remember and you always smile about when you remember it?
I feel that every Pornceptual is gives me that feeling because the audience is so free and open-minded, and there are some really cool people in the collective that are going to support each event and that I find inspiration from. There's a lot of artists that come to the event. It's not only music based, it's also a magazine and a collective that that is a political collective. So there's been some really exciting moments playing for Pornceptual, but I cannot single out one because that would make that one better than the others, and it's difficult for me to decide. So.
Yeah, it's hard. do you remember like the first time you actually, so for people, to give context to people, so Pornceptual was started when? When was founded? When did it start the first party?
It was 8 years ago, 8+ years ago.
Okay, 8 years ago. And do you remember the first time you actually entered Pornceptual? Was it around the same time?
I've been a resident for over 4 years. So I have not been with them since day one, but I came into it, about over 4 years ago. And the first Pornceptual that I went to was with my partner, and we arrived to Altamunza, and we went down into the dungeon, and it was very hot and sweaty, like extremely hot. And I remember the theme. I remember there was a theme, so we saw a lot of people wearing similar types of outfits, and it just seemed like, I don't know, it seemed like a movie.
Wow.
But it was very intense, I would say, but also really exciting because they have different rooms and different genres of music playing in the different rooms. So it's an event where you can walk around and see different things, and playing in front of an audience who is who some are naked actually really helps take away the stress.
Yeah, it is. I think there is a filmmaker director. I think Lars von Trier, possibly, who is famous for having the entire troupe. Like, he shoots a lot of scenes with people that were naked, and then to make the actors more comfortable in being naked, that he gets everybody undressed. So the entire troupe is like undressed. And okay, this is a different example, but I think it's interesting because then you remove barriers, like you feel more vulnerable, and also you feel more open. Very interesting. And that's something that I've always appreciated and cherished about Berlin, that there was this culture of being non-judgmental, of being very welcoming, whatever you feel you want to do in that particular context. Do you feel that like things have changed? First of all, let me ask you, like, when did you actually move to Berlin? When did you arrive?
I arrived in 2012.
Okay, yes. So did you feel that the scene and the respect for diversity, for openness, has matured or has changed over the years since you arrived in Berlin?
I feel that, like all things, there's change, but Berlin still has some of its old values here. Although due to COVID, things have changed a lot in a short amount of time because of the restrictions. And so last weekend, we had a Pornceptual open air event where there were hygienic rules. Every attendee who entered, they had their temperature taken, and everyone wore a mask at all times, and there were distancing rules, but it was shut down and by the police, and it's in the newspapers, and it made headlines. And other legal open airs last weekend also got shut down. So I feel that because of these new restrictions that we're experiencing now, that is affecting the scene. So, I mean, of course, this makes sense. I mean, even to do an event during COVID is a huge risk and a huge privilege.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And just for to put things in context, we are now in the week of October 28 or 26 actually. And today's 28th of October. So to timestamp this and not to show that we're doing things against the law, I think Berlin is going to go into a more stricter lockdown from November 2nd. So yeah, last weekend was much before the new rules come and kick in.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, and how do you see this panning out? Because I'm questioning myself. Like, there is a part of me that is very scared about what is going to happen to our community, to our industry, to a lot of artists whose main income is from gigs or performances or anything linked to clubs, people who work in clubs. And there's another part of me which is like, it is what it is. It's very unfortunate. I just want to focus on what I can do to make things better for my community and for, as you said before, like finding different opportunities, perhaps. How do you feel personally about what is going to happen?
Well, first of all, I'm still shocked about it. I know that many people are experiencing all different types of emotions, from lost work, lost shows. People who work in clubs and people who work in nightlife are also experiencing this. And it's a really tragic time for our dance music community. And it's a huge community, especially in Berlin. I mean, Berlin made a lot of money from its tourism and from nightclubs. So it's something that is going to, I think, continue for some time. And unfortunately, and if we are not proactive and supportive of our community and supportive of each other, I feel that it's just going to have an even larger negative effect. So it's a really good time to start new projects, to perhaps teach, like you said, or look into mentorship programs, or I guess just look into other work. Unfortunately, I don't want to, I don't want to tell artists or DJs or music producers to get a day job in a sense, or stop pursuing what they love. But by finding some kind of side income, I feel that that can only make a positive impact on your artist career. Because if you have some energy source coming from something else, I mean, it could still be within music, or it could be from a platform like Patreon, where you share your knowledge, or develop your own tools and levels of what you want to share with people. I feel that that will only bring you back positive energy. And yeah, I would just say, try not to be afraid of that. So be open to opportunities that are coming, or start your own opportunities.
Yeah, like we were saying about the label, right? Starting your own platform to give yourself a voice and people that you want to also help. And in the meantime, I think we're getting some questions from the crowd. So before we go into the wrap up, let's try to answer some of these questions. And guys, if you're listening now, feel free to type any questions on Facebook. We're gonna collect them and try to answer them. There's a question, I think, from Julia about, I've been approached from a label and I'm not so convinced about releasing with them. What would you recommend? I don't know why she's not convinced, but I guess.
Well, I would say, if you're not so convinced with releasing with them and you have some hesitations, then to go with your intuition. Don't release with them. So, but also I would try to see if you can place that track somewhere else, or do a self-release. You can open a Bandcamp account, an artist account, and you can just release it on Bandcamp. And you can just start selling it directly.
Yeah. Thanks, Jamaica, and I hope it's helpful for Julia. And there is a question about vinyl. Jamaica, are you still convinced that vinyl is more important than digital? I guess if you're convinced, if you think that vinyl is more important than digital, or
well, I don't feel that one is more important than the other, but I really do love vinyl. I just love feeling an actual product in my hands, and having a sound associated with artwork. And it's just easier for me to have this physical piece of product. So it just, it gives me a different approach to when I play. I also love digital as well. I still shop a lot on digital, and now a lot of artists, I feel, are releasing even more on their Bandcamps. So I am buying a lot of digital now as well. I buy both, and I just try to stay updated with my favorite producers and labels, and just hear what they're up to.
Yeah, do you find Bandcamp is like, what do you use normally to buy digital music? Bandcamp, something else as well?
I'm not limited to one platform. So I will shop on over 3 different platforms, about 4 different websites for digital. And once I go through all of those websites, then I will shop on my, I think, 3 websites for vinyl. And then I'll also have a day or afternoon where I just go on Discogs, and that takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
Discogs takes a lot of time. I mean, not all the other shopping. I mean, it's fun for me to dig through different things. Of course, going to an actual record shop is my favorite, but you know, now you can just be within the comfort of your own home and shop online. So safely. So I mean,
exactly.
safely.
It's true. Thanks, Jamaica. One question from Sishan, I guess, is how can I find out about your mentorships, yes, mentorship program? And is this online only? No, online or only in Berlin?
This is online as well as in Berlin, but I do both. And you can find out about it by contacting me directly, privately. I recommend dropping me a message on SoundCloud or on Instagram, and we can have a chat and see if we can work together and if this is something that will be beneficial.
Yes. Amazing.
So yeah, so it's mostly word of mouth.
Perfect. And I mean, if you have an email, a specific email, or if not, we're gonna include the link with a short description, so people who want to reach out know where to find you.
Okay, cool. We can do it like that too. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Nice. I have another 2 questions from the crowd in the meantime, and I'm thinking, I know we are like going toward the end, so in a moment we're gonna go toward the wrap up. And okay, so there's a question about like working with promoters. Like, actually, 2 questions. One is, what are some of the best clubs you played in that you remember?
Some of the best clubs I played in. That's well, that's a good question. In Germany, I love Blitz Club in Munich. They have an incredible sound system, a tuned void sound system, and it sounds similar on every point of the dance floor. So
Cool.
that's
Blitz.
a Blitz. And I also recommend Kitty.
In Tbilisi.
That's correct. That's also an incredible club and really cool people running it. The sound is amazing, and the lights that go with the club night are really, really impactful. And also, I would say the Block in Tel Aviv.
Block in Tel Aviv. Okay, very cool. Yes. Amazing. Hope that answered the question. And then there is a kind of slightly related question, but what are effective ways to work with promoters or to become known from promoters?
By focusing on your own sound and really tuning in with yourself and tuning in with what you love, that is going to show through your podcast, through your mixes, and through your productions. So it's something that takes time, but I would say don't be afraid of doing what you love. Sound-wise, I mean, don't try to please others or, I don't know, stick with trends or something. Just be true to yourself and go with that.
Yeah.
And be patient.
Be patient, yes.
Yeah. I know. I wish there was a faster answer, effective way, but
I think it's interesting because like it's very true, like be patient. It's probably for anything that is worthwhile or difficult to do in life, you need to be patient. I guess we are very much used to have instant gratification. We can order stuff and get anything online in 2 seconds. So when it comes down to be patient, we struggle. We are all in the same boat.
Yeah, it's tough.
It is, yes. Thanks, Jamaica. And okay, so I'm going to ask one of our final questions, and then see if there is another Q&A, another from the Q&A. What is a guilty pleasure track of yours? Something that you have, maybe it's a track that you love, but you never get the chance to play out in a club.
Oh, that's a good question. That's something that's always changing for me because I listen to a wide variety of genres. And in the morning, I listen to a lot of reggae or I don't know, different rock bands and stuff. And I guess there's always sometimes a song that the lyrics get stuck in my head, and that's something you want to sing in the shower, but you don't want to share with other people. So,
Nice.
so secret.
We all have them. We all have them. Like, I'm sure.
Yeah.
We all have a lot of them. No shame. I mean, like, we're all human. We
Yeah.
like stuff. It's not serious. It's funny. Thank you for being honest. So, and then there is a, okay, so question for you. Who is a guest that you think we should really speak with, and why?
I recommend Electric Indigo. She's someone who's been in the industry for some time, and she has developed her platform Female Pressure, which gives a lot of females in the industry a voice and a community. And I feel that there's a lot that she can talk about experience-wise, and it's also very credible what she's done for the music community and what she's done for females and non-binary.
Very cool. Yes, it's. I take the suggestion, and thank you for for suggesting it. She's great. And so I think last question, which is a bit of a tradition from in the Homo Sound interviews, which is what is a question that we should ask our next guest without knowing who they're going to be?
A question that I always like to ask other DJs and producers is about their previous work. So, what other jobs have you worked?
Yes, okay. Amazing. And as you can imagine, there is a question for you. I'm trying to find it in my notes, but oh yeah, okay. So there is a question which is, does making music make you happy? And if so, is that the point of making music?
Making music is my release emotionally, and it's something that I have to do to feel complete. So yes, after creating music, I feel happier. Just like when you, I think, go on a run or when you meditate, I feel gratification after, and I'm addicted.
Yeah. So I guess, yes, is a
So,
big
yes.
reason.
Yeah.
Very cool. Jamaica, thanks so much for being with us. This has been a pleasure and very good to see you again and to see that you're doing so well and are, despite the hard times, you're still excited to do what you do. And I'm personally looking forward to hearing more of your music and seeing more of your projects.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Is there any announcements that you want to make? Any latest projects that, if people are interested, can check out?
Sure. On the weekends, I am performing a live set for Female Pressure on their room Common, which is going to be aired on Currents FM. Mm-hmm. So it's a live set from my music studio in Berlin, and you can join online. So I'll include a link to that as well. I'll send it to you.
Perfect. Yes.
Yeah. And Friday, I will be closing the Inherencia music label party for an open air in Berlin. Mm-hmm. It's very, very limited capacity. So fingers crossed that everything goes well with this, with safety regulations and so forth. So
yes,
yeah,
fingers crossed. And yeah, hopefully, we're gonna get back to some kind of community closer together very soon.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and the last thing that I'd like to announce is a film project that will be released online. And it is a film for the Uncertain Landscape 4-part various artists series on Gradient. And it's a film that director Anthony Vardo created. And the music is a DJ mix of all of the various artist tracks mixed by me.
Very cool.
So that should release end of November or early December.
That's super cool, and we will make sure to share it with our community. So as soon as you have the link out and it's out, so let us know. We're gonna redirect it, reshare it. I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Cool, thank you.
Very cool, Jamaica. Thanks so much for being with us, and wish you a great evening. And see you soon, perhaps.
Thanks for having me. Have a nice evening too.
Bye bye.
Ciao.
Okay, guys, this is Joseph, and this is the outro. If you really like the content, I wanted to ask you, please consider liking us on Instagram or leaving a review on the podcast. Whether you're using that on Apple is very useful for us, and your comment makes all of our work worth it. Also, if you have any guests that you really would like us to chat with, let us know. We take any suggestion or any feedback, and we use it to improve and direct what we're going to do next. If you're a producer and you're interested in masterclasses with artists such as Scalamaria, VSK, Romek, Lag, and many more, you can now check our website homosound.co.uk. We have plenty of classes and more are coming as well. So brace yourself, you're gonna get a lot of content. And one last thing, shout out for Vlad for editing this podcast and Declan for creating the content that you all see on social media. Plus, of course, big thanks to Juliana, Flaminia, Alessandro and Rick from TapeFeed for all the rest of the work at HoS Sound. Thank you so much for listening. See you next time at HoS Sound.